Hey there, Pastor JD here. This is a video about something exciting coming up, new for us this fall at North City. I'm calling it Discipleship Nights. I'm super excited about it. I think this is awesome new iteration of what it means for us to love our neighbors in the way of Jesus and be a more holistic, balanced uh, movement of people, group of people who are trying to respond to what the Holy Spirit's doing in our everyday lives and in our mission of loving our neighbors. So I will tell you more about why I'm excited and kind of the background of why I think this is a great step for North City later. But first of all, I just want to tell you the details. This is what it is. This is what it's about. So you know what's coming. And then I'll try to answer some of your questions. So if you want to keep listening beyond the quick details, you can do that. But first of all, if you're watching this video, I'm sure that we really want to encourage you to join in this. Like if you're watching this video, either a microchurch leader or someone else at North City is sending it to you for a little context, or I'm sending it to you for more context, which means we would love for you to participate, and we think that this will be a really positive thing in your life. So what are discipleship nights? So you could almost say Wednesday night discipleship nights for everyone. Wednesday night discipleship nights for everyone. So what we're going to do is there has been this network of churches brewing in the background that I've been a part of. Certainly our church and our mama church, Mill City, are kind of anchor cornerstones of this church network, but it now includes other churches like Resurrection City in St. Paul, Espiritu Santo, that is a church plant of Mill City as well, and other churches that have kind of circled up a little bit and said, hey, we care about each other. We're about some of the same things. And one of the things that we really care about is apprenticing Jesus and developing disciples that are on mission in our cities together. So we're getting together under the umbrella of something called the Agile Resource Network that we've created together to create a discipleship night that is hosted at Mill City's building in Northeast Minneapolis that's accessible to all of our churches and all ages. So that's exciting. So what this is it's something that will be every Wednesday night, and it will include not just childcare for kids, but discipleship engagement and in curriculum designed to help them as little apprentices of Jesus develop in their relationship with Jesus. So you wouldn't just drop your kids off and say, have fun, see you in a few hours. It's engaging discipleship, some translation of what we'll be learning as adults into their little world. So that's really exciting, something we've never had before, a midweek experience, a robust midweek experience for our kids, completely free. And you can engage, have your kids engage in that. And then for youth, there has been a youth experience that our youth can engage in with Mill City, but there will be an even more focus Wednesday night starting September 18th for our youth, and that will also be discipleship focused. So for them, but for the adults, there's two options, but there's one main one I want to invite you into. There's two things for us to do. Both of them, I think, will be a pouring into you as a disciple of Jesus. Wednesday nights, we are fundamentally trying to create a space that fills you up as a disciple of Jesus, both challenges you and creates space for you to be invited in a community of other disciples of Jesus. They're on this journey to see his kingdom come in the city. And a lot of that will be us North City people hanging out together. There will be spaces where we're just together, but we'll also be together in the midst of this broader sort of movement of other churches and disciples in the Twin Cities that care about that as well. So there's two experiences for adults. The one that I would ask you to consider first is called the Discipleship in Mission Intensive. And this is me, other pastors in this network that have developed a conglomeration of some experiences and teachings that we think are foundational for being a missional disciple, which is kind of our thing. We think mission and discipleship are intertwined. And so this is an equipping to develop you in your discipleship of Jesus. and give you tools to not only engage in your relationship engage in your relationship with Jesus more deeply, but even ultimately, eventually, give you some tools and handles to help coach others to in their discipleship of Jesus. So, really, the ultimate outcome of the discipleship in mission intensive is you're going to go on a journey and an experience with other people from North City in a cohort, among other people in other churches, to develop some foundational understandings of what it means to be an apprentice of Jesus in our everyday, and some accountability, some challenge, some vulnerability, and some just really good teaching from people like myself, potentially Dale Drury, people at Mill City, Joe Saxton. So we're bringing a lot of really great voices into that as well. Let me double click on that for a second and tell you what that experience will be like. So this starts at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday night. So I know Wednesday nights can be a little chaotic, but 6 o'clock is when it starts, and that's when it starts for kiddos too. And then it goes until 7:30, 6 to 7:30 every Wednesday night on at Mill City's building in Northeast. One small little caveat there: if you got youth group, the youth group actually starts at 6:30, but there's things for them to do beforehand, so you can bring them and drop them off. So it's designed, if you got a family, for the whole family. Okay, double click on the discipleship intensive. So you're like, is this just a class that I come and sit at? What about men's and women's groups that we've been doing? So here's a really cool thing. I know that men's and women's groups, as we know them, won't continue in the same way. But what's awesome about this, because we've been a part of shaping it, is that we're incorporating a lot of what men's and women's group is in the discipleship and mission intensive experience. And here's what I mean by that. It will oscillate or go back and forth from one Wednesday you'll come and it'll be content from a teacher like myself or at Mill City, and then there'll be space to process that with other North City people all within that hour and a half. So that's one study, kind of big group, and then some social space processing. The next week or other weeks will be like our men's and women's groups. And we will have groups carved out based on who signs up for this and who says I'm in, for you to have that men's and women's group like experience where, in some sense, the curriculum is both your life, the tension, the celebrations that you're experiencing in your journey of apprenticing Jesus, and also the content that we're going through the rest of the time. So you'll have some things to contextualize, some homework to work on. So when we'll be talking about like having balanced rhythms of rest and work, you'll be thinking about that all week, and then you'll come to a men's group type space that's just North City people, just North City men, or just North City women. And not only will you get to talk about your life, but you'll get to talk about what work and rest look like for you based off of what we've been learning together as a cohort. So that will go from September 18th, and I believe it goes all the way through the spring with some breaks in between. And there's one more thing that I want to tell you about discipleship intensive, or just a whole Wednesday night experience. We are building in quarterly worship nights that are specifically designed for you to just be able to immerse yourself in the presence of God with other people through worship. So I know that's been something that our community has hungered for, and we've tried different spaces, some of which have been really awesome, and some have been a little hit or miss. Now we get to collaborate with other communities that are like-minded, that love Jesus, that are trying to love their neighborhood, and we are going to just worship Jesus for an hour and a half together. And I know a lot of you crave that, and so there'll be quarterly, somewhat thematic. So like on Ash Wednesday, there'll be an Ash Wednesday worship gathering and seasonal stuff, but the focus will be just that sort of musical worship space, that space to enter into God's presence so you and God can facilitate and experience that connection. So that's really the bread and butter of what we're hoping for. So on a Wednesday night starting September 18th, if you say to this, yes to this, you're creating a rhythm for your family every Wednesday with a few breaks, obviously, for something that comes up or holidays. You might even come early and organically organize, maybe bring in a packed dinner together with some friends from North City and eating beforehand. Then you send your kiddos into discipleship if you got them. You go back upstairs to the great room, and on any given Sunday, you'd experience some teaching from someone who's been following Jesus for a while and cares about this stuff, and then be able to integrate that with a cohort of North City people. And then the next week, you're in a more intimate discipleship group space with women or men from North City. I'm going to say men. We might even be able to sneak away to Indeed Brewing or some other brew house in Northeast during that time frame, and we have a men's group type experience. And then you come back, and on the way home you get to chat with your kids, and throughout the week, if you've got them, about what they learned in discipleship. So that's the experience, and I'm super pumped for it. As I've already been talking for 10 minutes, I'm long-winded, I know, but if you're still listening, let me tell you a little bit about why this excites me. And I know it can be scary whenever we introduce some change or tweaking. I know some of us will be sad to see our regular habit and rhythm of what we know as men's group or women's group to not quite be the same. But I think a lot of the elements that we love about what those things are right now will carry over and continue in this space. But one of the reasons I'm so excited for it is that my conviction about the church and about a type of church that needs to exist for today and to fulfill the kind of mission that we're called to, it needs to be balanced with what I have referred to before as up, in, and out, or worship, community, and mission. Another way to look at it is as three crucial relationships or sets of relationships. To be a fundamentally relationship founded church, we need to have vibrant relationship with God, healthy relationship with one another, and community, healthy relationship with our neighbors, and meaningful mission in relationship with our neighbors. So we refer to that real quick, like up, in, and out, like a solid, passionate spirituality, apprenticeship to Jesus, relationship with each other and relationship with our neighbors. So obviously we have oriented the main thing we do in our community dinners and brunch church in having a meaningful relationship with our neighbors. That's kind of the focal point of our gatherings, unlike many other churches where the focal point might be connecting with God primarily, and the rest of maybe neighbors are there and maybe your friends are there as extra. All of the spaces we create obviously have all of those things. It's not like we neglect God or each other when we meet with our neighbors. It's all intertwined, but there are kind of things that we're highlighting in each of those spaces. So our Sunday morning space during brunch and Sunday evening during summer, we're highlighting our relationship with neighbors because we're inviting them around the table. So that's fantastic. We have a really strong representation of that in the life of our church. Last year we launched micro churches, and this year we're making them even more prominent by having a micro church Sunday, which again includes all of these things. Certainly you connect with Jesus while you're with those people. Certainly neighbors are often invited, or you're at least talking about how you're loving your neighbor. But the focal point there is connecting with a community within our community and growing in stronger relationships with people who you're on mission with. So we got a strong practice of that. But what I'm so excited about discipleship nights is we've never really had a strong space or rhythm of connection with God. And certainly our men's and women's groups have had components of that and have had components of all of those things. We've tried studies, we've done stuff informally, we've tried worship nights. And on a fundamental level, I'm just excited for what can come in the future if we build this space of Wednesday night discipleship. So that's where this comes in. This is primarily about, not that the other thing won't happen, not that you won't be trained in mission, not that you won't engage with community, but the primary thing about Wednesday night for all ages is for you to be poured into, for you to receive training, encouragement, a challenge, invitation to a deeper life of discipleship with Jesus. And the hope is that can be a space that you can mark out in your life where you're like, that's where I am putting time in, investing in that to grow in my relationship with Jesus. All the other relationships will grow as you do. I think that's actually true of all the spaces. All the other relationships grow as you move in those directions. It expands your ability to love. All of those do. But this is the best representation I think we've had so far, or best space we've had so far to do that intentionally with each other. All right, almost 15 minutes, but I realized I missed something huge, and I'm sorry. I said there was two options for adults on Wednesday night coming up, and that is true. The other option is a spiritual authority class that's going to happen at the same time frame. So if you really feel drawn to and excited about learning more and investing in who the Holy Spirit is and how you can be more in tune with the Holy Spirit and the authority that God has given us through the presence of the Holy Spirit in our life, and you really want to carve out some time to learn more about that with a cohort of people from these other churches who care about the same thing, there is a class at the same time, same place, where you can specifically learn about that. So that's something to consider as well. I'm just going to say for this first time around, I'm going to really encourage people just to have a shared experience in the discipleship and mission. We'll get a little bit of that Holy Spirit training as well in that. But I think the spiritual authority stuff's fantastic and amazing. And the beauty about this is, like, in future years, we hope that there's multiple options or multiple ways for us to keep deepening our relationship with Jesus through discipleship nights. So there's the scope. There's what it's about. Thank you for listening. This starts September 18th, so you can respond by texting us, by telling the person who sent you this video, by emailing me directly, by emailing Alana, by texting one of us. Like, you know how to get a hold of us. Just do one of those things and we'll make sure you get signed up. And probably what we'll do is send you back an actual sign up form for discipleship and mission and for your kids, and then you'll sign that up. It'll be on a website that we send to you. So, and maybe even in the comment or the description below this video. Thanks for watching. Later.